Welcome to Lesson Sequence 1 for Unit 2. The title of Unit 2 is A Sense of. We'll be looking at how where you are creates who you are. And then we'll see how writers use this in stories and poems to create good stories and good meaning. Here are some terms to know. In today's vocabulary presentation, we're going to be looking at figurative language and theme. Figurative language is when a writer uses language that means more than what it says on the surface. Have you ever been so hungry you could eat a horse? You're not actually going to eat that horse. You're just trying to say, I'm really hungry. That's figurative language. Theme is the message of a story or a poem. After reading, the author has left you with a lesson to be learned or an idea to be thought about. Themes are the overall message of a story or a poem. Stay tuned to the rest of the vocabulary presentation to find out more. So what is figurative language anyway? You might not have heard of it, but I'm sure you've encountered it, and you've probably even used it yourself. Whenever you describe something by comparing it with something else, you are using figurative language. Like, if you say that somebody's smile is as bright as the sun, you're giving them a compliment. But that's figurative language. When you say, that is the funniest thing I've ever heard, or you nearly scared me to death, that's also figurative language. We're going to look at three types of figurative language in particular. We're going to look at imagery, simile, and metaphor. There are lots of types of figurative language, but we'll start with these three. Imagery is a type of figurative language that appeals to your senses. It's a description of people or objects stated in terms of our senses. These are words that make you see or hear or feel as if you're touching something or taste something or you even smell something. Using vivid imagery words creates a picture in the reader's mind when they visualize what they read. This is a strong type of figurative language when creating a sense of place because the reader actually feels as if they are where the writer is describing. Pay attention for imagery words in the informational text that you'll encounter in this lesson sequence. Simile is another type of figurative language. You might think that simile sounds like a word like similar, and you're kind of right. Simile is a figure of speech which involves a direct comparison between two unlike things, usually with words like or as. Here's the example. The muscles on his brawny arms are strong as iron bands. You're comparing them to iron bands. His muscles aren't iron bands, but they're strong like them. These are simile. You're saying that his muscles are similar to iron bands, and you're drawing that comparison using like or as. Another type of figurative language that draws a comparison is a metaphor. A metaphor is a figure of speech which involves an implied comparison between two relatively unlike things using a form of be. A form of be would be like is or are. The comparison is not announced by like or as, like it is in a simile. You're not saying that something is similar to something, you're saying that something is something. Look at the example here. It said, the road was a ribbon wrapped through the desert. It's not comparing the road to a ribbon. It's saying that the road is a ribbon. That's a metaphor. Again, similar to a simile because it draws a comparison, but it's a direct comparison, and it does not use like or as. So now you know a few types of figurative language. Figurative language is the opposite of literal language because figurative language, there's more meaning to what you're saying than what is on the surface. Figurative language is used to give you a feeling about the subject. There's implied tones, either positive or negative. Figurative language is rarely used to describe something in a neutral tone. And poets and writers use figurative language almost as frequently as literal language. And when you read, you have to be conscious of this, because then you'll be able to make more sense of what. So now we move on to theme. You want to ask yourself, how can I find the theme of a text? And what is theme? Theme is the underlying message of a story or poem. The theme is a big idea, something that you can take away from the story, a lesson that the story taught you about life in general. Sometimes an author will come right out and state the theme of a story or a poem. Authors usually tell readers the theme toward the end of a story. Look at the last page or the last line of a poem to see if you can find a stated theme. Themes can be put in the form of a statement or a phrase. Some common themes that our characters teach us are: persistence pays off. They didn't give up and they achieved their dreams. Honesty is better than cheating. They did the right thing and got what they wanted after all. It's more important to be nice than to be popular. Be careful what you wish for. Love is the most important force. Consider these themes and then think about a book that you've read, or a movie that you've watched, or even a poem that you've encountered where this was the lesson that you learned. Check out this poem and see if you can find the theme. A day to play got washed away. Rain comes down, covers town. Eyes are sad, rain is bad. Come downstairs, get the chairs. Blankets, sheet, looking neat. Inside forts instead of sports. Rainy day tears can turn into cheers. What the poet here is describing is a day that was rained on, and you would think that that day wouldn't be fun. But it turned into a great time because they made some inside forts. So that teaches you a lesson. Good can come from bad, or a cheerful attitude to overcome obstacles. Either one of those themes is supported with details from the text. What lesson did you learn? Can you think of a theme of your own? So let's review what you've learned about theme. What is theme? Theme is the underlying message of a piece of text. How can I find the theme? Sometimes the author will state the theme, usually somewhere near the end. Sometimes you have to use clues to figure out the theme, or infer. You'll get a chance to find the theme in the poems and the readings from lesson sequence 1. Good luck!